Hi everyone, this is Alyssa from Pediatric Interactions, and I am going to be going over different tips and tricks you can use if your child is having trouble saying the S sound. And a lot of these can also be used for the Z sound because the S and the Z sound are said exactly the same way, except for when we do our Z sound, our voice is turned on, Z, and our S sound, our voice is turned off. So these can be used to help facilitate a nice Z sound as well. So the first thing is to know kind of how we produce the S sound. It can be nice to explain these steps to kids that are having trouble with it. So in order to make our S sound, the tip of our tongue is going upwards towards the bumpy part right behind your top front teeth, and it's almost touching that part, but not quite. The other thing that kids have to do to make a good S sound is to be touching the sides of their tongue to their upper back teeth, their molars back there. And they also have to be blowing air out the front of their mouth and making it a longer sound. If they just make it too short, it's going to end up sounding like a T sound instead of an S sound. So speaking of that, that's one of the first things I go over with kids for their S sound too, is that it's a long sound. And something that can help with them to think about it as a long sound and to say it correctly is to be using different touch cues. So a lot of times I'll use my arm, it's nice and long, and have them start at the top. They can either start, depending on how long their arms are, they can either start at their shoulder or their elbow and bring it down. And see if they can make the S sound the whole time that they're stroking down their arm. And then of course it will get a little shorter because we don't say our S sounds that long when we're talking, but it's a good way to start getting kids to learn that it is a long sound, and it's a fun thing to do and a good reminder when they're working on their sound to use that cue. Something else I like to use, to think about S as a long sound, is something that is stretchy. So you can use a rubber band, if you have any Lycra or some of that like exercise elastic, or sometimes I'll use a slinky, and as they're saying their S sound, they can pull whatever they have that is stretchy out to make it longer. So movement can often be a good way to help kids say different sounds if we add a movement to it. So the movement of bringing their hands apart and making this longer can be helpful. Something else I really like to do is talk about the three things we have to think of when we're saying our S, and sometimes I'll even make a visual of this as well. So teeth together, tongue up, and feel the air. And you can even have them put their hand in front of their mouth, and you can feel the air coming out a little bit. So sometimes I'll have a picture of a tongue going up, so tongue up, teeth together, a picture of a smile with the teeth, and feel the air. So some sort of picture where you see air coming out of someone's mouth with squiggles. Something else I like to use, and I think this is good for all speech sounds, is to have them practice saying it in front of a mirror so that they can see what the different parts of their mouth are doing. And when you're explaining the different things to do, it's easier if they have a mirror in front of them so they can see exactly what they're doing and what you're doing and see what the difference is, if there's a difference. I think a mirror is also really helpful if they are using their S, they're saying their S with their tongue out a little bit. So more like and it can start sounding like a TH sound. So that's something really helpful that you can use the mirror for, so they can see, am I seeing my tongue or am I just seeing my teeth? For that too, I also like to use the analogy of keeping the snake in the cage. So I talk about the tongue is the snake and your teeth are the cage, and it has to stay behind in the cage. You can use a different animal too if you like. I just always think a snake is a good correlation going along with the S sound. Something else I like to do if a child is having trouble figuring out where they put their tongue tip for S is to take a food that they like, something that is more of like a smooth texture, so something like peanut butter or Nutella, or you can even use a sucker to touch the bumpy spot right behind your teeth. You can touch that part with a sucker, or put a little dab of peanut butter or a little dab of Nutella or yogurt, pudding, something that they like, up on that part of their mouth, and have them use their tongue to lick it off. So that can be really helpful if they're having trouble getting their tongue up to that spot, so they can kind of learn where it is and they're really motivated to get the food that they really like there. So those are some of my tips and tricks for us. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, or if you have any tips and tricks of your own, that'd be great to comment some of those too. Thanks.